Hey there, and welcome to Cyberpunk Librarian. I'm Daniel Messer. I've been meaning to do this for a while now. See, I've been privileged enough to speak a few times at the Innovative Users Group annual conferences, which are yearly meetings of librarians and support staff that use software from Innovative Interfaces, which is now owned by a company called Clarivate. For those outside the library world, Innovative is the company behind Polaris ILS, Sierra ILS, and the Vega line of library systems, plus a whole lot of other things. I've been working with Polaris, the Polaris integrated library system, since it was in beta. So I've got a long history with this product, and while I love me some open source ILS goodness, it is my professional opinion that Polaris is the best ILS for public libraries. Is it perfect? No. Is it inexpensive? Again, no. But function for function, feature for feature, Polaris remains, in my mind, the gold standard for public library ILS solutions outside the open source sphere. That's not meant to be a commercial. Rather, it's an explanation of why I would enjoy and, indeed, look forward to going to a conference about very specific library software. But all of that aside, I've spoken at the IUG conference before, and I've taught classes at IUG on everything from hacking your online catalog to database structures and SQL coding. And a couple of times, I've talked about other things. This is one of those times. I'm bringing you a presentation from the 2025 IUG conference. And not only can you listen to the ravings of a mad cyberpunk, but check the show notes, and you'll find links to a video that encompasses the presentation and my slide deck. So if you want to listen to this episode, cool, kick back and snuggle up. We're going to get technical and we're going to get weird. But if you want to watch the episode and bathe in the mediocrity that is my slide deck, I've got some links for you. As always, thanks for listening. This is Electric Libraryland. Hello, hey, and I hope you're having a wonderful time here at IUG 2025. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today, and before we get started, if you want to take notes, I will not be running into the audience to stop you. But if you like, you can find everything about this session at the URL on the screen. You'll find links to various sources that I've drawn on for this talk, like literally an export of my Zotero repo. You'll find further information, videos, music. Heck, I've got my talk written out here in front of me, so you're going to find a transcript too. So just to make sure you're in the right place, this is Electric Libraryland. If you're my age, you may have had a class in high school called CWP, or Current World Problems. That's kind of what I'm going to be doing here today, talking about some things that I've noticed in the world of library technology, because, folks, there's a lot going on, and it's impossible to keep track of everything. Believe me, I know. My goal here is to give you some things to think about, and that's about it. As the title of the talk implies, we're going to look at AI, copyright, ownership, the varieties of Celtic music across Eastern North America. Sorry, wrong talk. And we're going to be looking at the world of tomorrow, or something like that. But to get some introductions out of the way, hi, I'm Dan. I'm one of the members at large on the IUG steering committee, and I've been working in the library field for almost 30 years now, which is, well more than half of my life. I'm a Polaris ILS administrator for library systems and services and the author of Bricks Without Clay, Demystifying Polaris Transactions, which is not for sale on Amazon because who's going to buy that? You'll find the book for free at the aforementioned URL. I've been working with Polaris since it was in beta, from the front desk to the back of the house and database administration. It's been a wild ride, and it's the reason that I say that I'm an ILS administrator, and that's why I drink. If you listen to library-related podcasts, you might recognize me from a show called Cyberpunk Librarian. And as things happen, this talk is going to be so cyberpunk flavored that I should be talking to you while wearing mirror shades. I'm not going to do that. But on that note, William Gibson, the father of cyberpunk, once wrote that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed yet. As things go, Gibson doesn't write as much cyberpunk these days because if you look around, you'll notice that cyberpunk really isn't fiction anymore. Zoom in and look at libraries, and you'll see that we're living in an age where libraries are a ripe target for cybercriminals and government agencies and interference. Copyright is in flux, if for no other reason than billionaires want it to be, and the Library of Congress is playing with AI. There are all kinds of artificial intelligence things that can do stuff for you. I mean, hey, you remember that AI demonstration they did at the last IUG with the little cartoon wizard? Yeah, neither do I. So, you will notice a few themes running through this talk, but I'll establish one right here at the beginning. Beloved, I believe that you can learn a lot about library technology from music. All you need to do is listen to the right songs. And yes, you'll find links to these songs through the URL as well. So let's ease into this with something that's easy to talk about and isn't controversial at all. AI. Oh, damn it. My slides are out of order. Well, I guess we'll press on. Okay. So AI is big. That's not a shock. And it's a big problem. And I don't think that's a shock either. There are plenty of reasons to use it because it's a tool, just like any other. And there are plenty of reasons not to use it because it's a tool unlike any other. It's all over the news. It's all over your favorite software and products. And it's all over your once favorite software and products because those products turned into crap after someone shoved AI into them. I mean, Logitech forced ChatGPT into its mouse drivers. Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I look at my mouse, I'm thinking, it's just not smart enough. So I have so many cautionary tales to share. To begin with, let's look at the problems within AI and ask yourself, and others, please ask others and see what they say, but ask yourself, why are people willing to give AI a break? AI is so often wrong, so often hilariously wrong that it becomes the butt of a joke. And we're not talking small failures here. We're talking about highly public failures where ChatGPT is a guy standing at a podium and his pants fall down. Look, when you have a host on a popular television show like The View talking about how President Woodrow Wilson pardoned his brother-in-law, Hunter DeButts, I mean, right? I said AI was the butt of the joke. There was a time that ChatGPT would crash and refuse to acknowledge the mention or existence of David Mayer. Who's David Mayer? Well, I have no idea. But back in early December of last year, ChatGPT was, quote, unable to produce a response, unquote, if you asked it anything about David Mayer. Even better, ChatGPT would terminate that session, and you'd have to open up a new chat to ask something else. And apparently people are okay with this. Here's a scenario you'll vibe within. You sit down at your desk. You need to write a quick email. And as you write, the spell check in your email software is pointing out your spelling mistakes. One problem, though, you're not making any. You're reasonably certain that you've spelled the word librarians correctly, and you're absolutely sure that you nailed the spelling of the town your library is in. Additionally, it's checking your grammar, and it's never done that before. It's suggesting that you change certain phrases in a way that is not compatible with English. 2 questions. How long do you put up with that? And how much trust do you have in your spell check going forward? AI is a fascinating misnomer in that artificial intelligence is neither artificial nor intelligent. It's a complicated guessing machine that applies mathematics to language. And check my sources, there's a hell of an article by a guy named Baldur Bjornsson, and he talks about how the intelligence in AI is something we see because we want to. He calls it, and this is a genius word, the elementalist effect. Elementalist. And he likens it to the same process you'd see within a classic sort of psychic con artist scheme. So you have a self-selecting audience. Chances are that if you don't believe in psychic abilities, you're not going to spend any time with someone who claims to have them. People who believe in the intelligence of AI want to believe in it. Now, keep in mind, your psychic GPT sets the scene, and the first thing it does is manage your expectations. In the same way a psychic might tell you that their spirit guide doesn't always speak clearly or that things are hazy in the ethereal mists, you're told this is new technology, it's not perfect, or that it's early days, or this is beta. That way you'll understand, that it's not going to be right all the time, and it's heavily implied that these things will get better with time. With a psychic, they're going to ask you what you want to know or who you would like to communicate with. There aren't too many tales of a psychic walking up to some rando at the 7-Eleven and saying, "Hey, Brad, your mom misses you too, but she thinks you really need to move beyond your grief and live a full and happy life. Also, she stashed a couple $1,000s under the hardwood floor beneath the bed. Cheers, lad." Now, the first thing that a psychic needs to know is, well, what do you want to know? And that's the first thing an AI needs too. Sometimes, probably most of the time, you will ask your question, get a response, and move on. But that's not always the case. And sometimes, and this applies to me, maybe we need to talk with the AI to learn more. Here's where you have to be careful, because you are not having a conversation with anything. You are embarking upon a game where you supply information and the AI will have to guess what you want. It's like 20 questions, but with exponents. Many times it guesses correctly, but all too often it doesn't. The thing is that we've been handed a word to describe this that is, for some reason, it's different from the word we would use to describe anything else like this in software. If you find that your ILS is doing something wrong, what do you call it? It's a bug. When you put in a ticket through the support, what choice do you select? Do you select defect or system issue? But that's not so with AI. No. We call this a hallucination. We say that ChatGPT or Claude or Bard or whatever hallucinated the wrong information. Folks, that anthropomorphizes and imparts a humanity onto a mathematical model in a manner that it does not deserve. It's not a hallucination, it's defective. And in a recent study, AI researchers and computer scientists at New York University discovered that an LLM only needs to have 0.001% of its training model corrupted with wrong information or misinformation in order to produce wrong answers with high confidence levels. Silicon Valley has literally created a digital Dunning-Kruger machine, and they're marketing it as being the next big thing. It is a standard belief in library work, in research, and in intelligence work that it is better to have no information than it is to have wrong information. Current AI products not only venture outside this foundational philosophy, they blow right through it. Show of hands, how many of you have far less trust in Google than you did 2 years ago? I mean, not only is it the case that someone who quickly finds what they're looking for doesn't spend as much time looking at ads, but also that generative AI and LLMs are poisoning the wells of knowledge and ideas with information that's not just wrong, but in some cases horrifically wrong. Like putting glue on your pizza wrong, or potty training your kids by smearing feces on a balloon. One of the biggest problems with AI, at least in the realm of how it works, comes down to the expertise problem. And it's kind of a paradox in that if you wish to study something, you must first learn everything about it. When you're dealing with AI, you're asking questions. But we all know that AI will just straight up lie to you and deliver the wrong answer. The problem is you need to know enough about your subject to spot it. For me, I'd say at least 80% of my AI queries are about coding. How do I do something in Python? How to create this function in PHP? How can I automatically calculate the first and last days of the previous month in SQL? I've asked all that stuff, and I have gotten back some BS, Mizumi. But I know enough about Python, PHP, and SQL to see that the answer is wrong. And often, even when the AI is wrong, I gain an insight into what I need, and that often provides the answer anyway, at least by accident. I would never ask ChatGPT about, recurring headaches, because I'm not a neurologist, and neither is ChatGPT. I don't know enough about the subject to know if I'm looking at a wrong and possibly dangerous answer. But lots of people will absolutely believe whatever Chatty G drops on them. Now, I look out among you, the audience, and lo and behold, and goddess above, I see a lot of women out there. Ladies, I'm not even going to ask you this question because I already know the answer, and that answer is yeah. Hell yeah. You've put up with some misogyny in your lifetime, haven't you? Well, I have bad news because AI has a problem with women. It turns out that if you train your little demon in the framework with a bunch of data generated mostly by males, problems arise. I don't need to tell you about the shortage of women working in STEM fields. I bet y'all already know something about that, and what this means is that you have a lot of dudes imparting their opinions and their wills upon these mathematical models. The training data alone, and we're going to talk about that training data soon enough, but the training data alone shows heavy biases against women and against the LGBTQ community. Amazon found itself in the news when it got out that its AI-based resume screening service had a real problem with putting women to work. And in case that wasn't obvious, let me tell you a short story about 3 women working in AI. Their names are Tosh McCauley, Helen Toner, and Dr. Timnit Gebru. This is a real short story, and here's how it goes. Once upon a time, 3 women voiced their concerns about how AI is being used and developed, and then they were fired. From the data to the delivery, AI is unwell, and those diseases are called misogyny, homophobia, racism, and ageism. A tutoring company was sued by the US EEOC because its AI-powered recruiting system automatically rejected women 55 and older and men 60 and older. A healthcare AI failed to flag black patients when assessing the need for high-risk medical care management. An investigation by the Washington Post discovered that at least 8 people had been falsely arrested based upon an ID provided by a facial recognition AI system. All of these people were black. It's 2025, and people think machines are intelligent. But if they are, oh my God, look what they were taught. So, I'm old, okay? The gray hair is a dead giveaway, but how many of y'all are familiar with a basic tenet of computer science called GIGO? G-I-G-O. Seriously, they used to teach this stuff in schools. In the 3rd grade, we had to learn about this before the teacher would even let us touch the Apple IIe. GIGO is an easy-to-understand concept, and it means garbage in, garbage out. You put garbage data into any computer system from the Apple IIe to an LLM, you're going to get garbage data back. But one of the funniest things about AI is that it violates this tenet. I know. My website has been scraped by every AI crawler out there. And since I've been using this image as my logo for, 12 years now, I wanted to see if ChatGPT might give me back my own logo if I ask for it. So I asked Chatty G, hey, can you create a logo for a podcast called Cyberpunk Librarian? And it gave me this. Folks, I spelled librarian correctly. It was part of the input. It took good data and made garbage. And this kind of thing happens all the time. Speaking of which, where did they get that data? The training data, I mean. Carl Sagan said that if you wish to bake an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. If you want to create an LLM or a GPT, you need to feed it. And that's going to require a lot of data and a lot of apple pies. So how do you get it? Well, that's the easy part, beloved. You steal it. I don't know about you, but I have literally watched the IIS log files update as OpenAI and Anthropic's Claudebot crawled the OPACs of the libraries that I work for. They're harvesting all your cataloging data, from the titles to the summaries, from the subject headings to the call numbers. I guess we might rejoice just a little bit, because after all of these years, an information system that lives outside the library world is finally interested in MARC records. Which reminds me, I wonder how OCLC feels about AI companies slurping up all those records. Anyway, there's something that I don't think is being talked about enough. And it's that if you, as a librarian, as an information professional, if you are using a commercial AI, and I don't care which one it is, you are trading in stolen goods. Now, dear hearts, I'm a shadow librarian. I have no problem with this. But there exists a wild and crazy group of librarians who still believe that copyright has some kind of sanctity. And if that is you, then you need to understand that every commercial AI could not exist, cannot exist, without the largest theft ever perpetrated upon humanity. If OpenAI or Anthropic or Microsoft had to pay for the content they stole, well, I can imagine numbers that big, but I've never seen that many of anything. Every single commercial AI vendor that you have ever heard of is being sued because Silicon Valley stole everything. Blogs, movies, newspapers, music, magazines, books, scholarly journals, YouTube, the data of your library collection, and every other library collection. They stole it all. And they're fine with it. Indeed, Mark Zuckerberg went on record and said that most creators overvalue their content. Their stuff isn't as important as they think it is. Zuckerberg opined that there needs to be a discussion about copyright and a relitigation of how it works. Quote, when you put something out in the world, to what degree do you still get to control it and license it? Unquote. Well, last I checked, Mr. Zuckerberg, I get to control it for the rest of my life and then for 70 years thereafter. Last year, Mustafa Suleyman, Microsoft's CEO of AI, he said that anything on the open web was, quote, freeware, and that anyone could copy it and use it without permission and certainly without compensation. And Sam Altman of OpenAI said that content creators should be happy. They should see the theft of their work as a significant upside benefit, and they should be proud that their work is powering artificial intelligence. And then these tech bros go crying to the federal government and to the press when DeepSeek came along and did everything as well as, if not better than, ChatGPT's models. And the AI CEOs had the audacity to be angry when it looked like DeepSeek had yoinked their training data. DeepSeek came along and stole from them. It's very clear. The tech bros believe that the only copyright that matters are their copyrights, and the copyrights that belong to their business partners. Your copyright, not so much. You're probably overvaluing it anyway. You need to understand and expect that from here forward, everything you put online, the bibliographic records in your catalogs, the events in your event calendar, your social media posts, the articles posted on your library website, and the photos you shared on Instagram, anything and everything you put online will be taken by an AI company and used without your permission. Period. Some people will tell you that copyright was broken in 1998 with the passage of the Sonny Bono Copyright Term Extension Act. I'll tell you that copyright was broken on April 16, 1971 with the invention of FTP, and then again in 1986 when BBS started using the Z modem data transfer protocol. With these two inventions, it was laid out that if it could be digitized, then it could be copied and shared. Meta, OpenAI, Microsoft, Apple, Anthropic, and the others, they downloaded everything they could, and no one could say anything about it. By the time we realized what was stolen from us, they already had the data they wanted. In 2013, a young man took his own life. A life that was destroyed by a prosecutor and a legal system determined to make him pay for his crimes against copyright laws. His name was Aaron Swartz. He developed RSS. He helped develop RSS. He helped develop Markdown. He was involved in the early stages of the development of Creative Commons. His crime, if you'd like to call it that, was that he downloaded a lot of articles from JSTOR. JSTOR let it go, but the federal prosecutors called it theft and went after him with so many charges that other prosecutors and judges criticized their methods. To my knowledge, no one from any AI company has been prosecuted for anything under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Teresa Nielsen Hayden is a sci-fi editor, author, and essayist. Cory Doctorow mentioned her once in one of his articles, specifically quoting something she said. Quote, "Just because you're on their side, it doesn't mean they're on your side," unquote. Last year, the Library of Congress undertook a study to see what would happen if they used AI to catalog digital materials. The results weren't all that surprising. When it came to LCCNs and ISBNs, the AI had around an 85% success rate. And that makes sense. LCCNs and ISBNs are fairly predictable in their structure and design. But when it came to figuring out subject headings, genres, and more in-depth stuff, at or around 50%. Amikoi, that's a coin flip. But the question you should be asking is, hey, why is the LC looking at AI instead of, catalogers and librarians? Well, just because you're on their side doesn't mean they're on yours. And before we move on, can we just, for a moment, acknowledge the horrific environmental impact of AI? The University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign projects that the water usage for AI will lie between 4.2 and 6.6 billion cubic meters by 2027. That's freshwater usage, by the way. I hope we don't need any of that fresh water for, other things. But it's okay. It's all right, folks. Microsoft is going to be firing up a new energy center for their AI efforts. They were proud to announce that soon they'll be drawing upon the electricity produced by the Crane Clean Energy Center, which is a brand new name for an old facility originally called 3 Mile Island, the site of the worst commercial nuclear disaster in the history of the United States. You'll notice in this image here that only one set of cooling towers are in use. The other two cooling towers haven't been used since 1979 for reasons. 2 years ago, Microsoft and Apple were jumping up and down to make sure people knew about their eco initiatives and all of the things they were doing to go green. I bet you don't hear a single word about that at Build or WWDC this year. And if you do, you point and laugh. So, manage your AI use responsibly. There's more writing on it than a rewritten email with a professional tone and fewer profanities. And keep in mind, every single major AI product that you've ever heard of is deeply and embarrassingly unprofitable. Sooner or later, someone is going to ask about all that smoke coming from the money-burning machine. So, okay, let's go back to copyright for a minute, because this too is a big problem. And it's only getting bigger. I won't go throwing around conspiracy theories, however. I will point out the incredibly apt timing between the Internet Archive losing its battle with Hachette and it falling under a cyber attack from a so-called hacktivist group that didn't seem to have a whole lot of reasons to launch such a coordinated attack. I mean, literally, it was less than a month between the two events. I mean, maybe it was serendipity, who knows? However, there are groups of people out there more organized than a hacktivist group, and their pockets are much deeper. These groups are quite interested in removing media and content, effectively black holing it. We call them corporations. Corporations are responsible for the loss and destruction of more media than you can imagine. I'm sure you've heard of how NBC erased early episodes of Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. Or maybe how the BBC did the same things with the first episodes of The Avengers, where John Steed played second fiddle to Dr. David Keel. Honor Blackman didn't show up until season 2, but that's not it, friends. The rise of personal streaming video on the internet was a massive event in the history of broadcasting. I mean, who knew that watching someone play Minecraft would be so entertaining? It's a pity that so much of that has been deleted by Twitch and YouTube. So, speaking of which, how many of y'all circulate video games? Has anyone had troubles with some of these games being rendered unplayable, either through online multiplayer server shutdowns or server-side distribution systems going dark? Because you may know by now that often when you buy a game disc, the game might not be on it. No, there's just a bit of code that tells the console where to go to download the game. And if that game had a multiplayer component powered by online servers, and if the company who runs those servers decided, that's enough of that, shut them down, well, you can't play that game anymore. Remember what Ms. Hayden said about being on someone's side? It doesn't always mean that they're on your side. In 2024, the U.S. Copyright Office, a division of the Library of Congress, decided against a petition from a video game archivist and research foundation. They wanted a DMCA exemption so they could archive, study, and provide examples of games even after the companies shut them down. Needless to say, this denial makes it much harder to create an archive or a library of video games. The Entertainment Software Association praised the decision, of course, saying, quote, "With today's decision, the U.S. Copyright Office confirms that the current level of video game preservation is appropriate and recognizes that video games present unique copyright concerns that should always be taken into consideration," unquote. Let's be honest. The current level of video game preservation at the corporate and ownership level is functionally zero. There is only one company that literally does anything with its legacy games, and that's Nintendo. That aside, the response from the Video Game History Foundation is far more interesting. Quote, "The game industry's absolutist position, which the ESA's own members have declined to go on record to support, forces researchers to explore extra-legal methods to access the vast majority of out-of-print video games that are otherwise unavailable," unquote. Extra-legal methods. Welcome to the wonderful world of anarchivism, something you're likely to see more and more of in the coming months and years. So much so that your librarians working in the front of house may find themselves drawing upon the work of anarchivists to provide information and media for your patrons. Anarchivists share a few things in common with AI companies in that sometimes, if you want to save something for later, you need to appropriate it without asking permission. Or, to put it another way, we make a copy of it. Or, to put it another way, we steal it. But you see, the difference between anarchivists and AI companies is that when an AI company, it's progress and technological development. When an anarchivist does it, it's a felony. I guess the distinction lies in that you need to steal so much of it that no one can count the cost. There are plenty of other reasons something can disappear. And as things go, music is one of the biggest triggers. For instance, take the original WKRP in Cincinnati. For the younger folks, this was a sitcom set in a radio station that played rock music. Like real rock music on the show. So you would hear Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones, Heart, Boston, Janis Joplin, and so many more. I love this show. This show is one of the reasons that I'm a podcaster and one of the reasons I run an IceCast server. Now, do you have any idea how hard it is to clear music rights for a television show about playing music on the radio? One that ran for 4 seasons and 90 episodes? By the time this show came out on physical media, some of the original songs didn't come with it. So if you wanted to watch this show in its original form, you had to rely on those extra legal methods. The same thing happened to Beavis and Butthead and Daria. In some cases, episodes of all of these shows were re-edited by fans to re-include the original music. And it's not just the entertainment that disappears either. In the months leading up to the Trump administration, anarchivists, some working in groups like the Archive Team and others running solo, They got to work copying, downloading, and distributing data deemed to be at risk. Things like weather data and modeling, the kind of stuff that you'd use to track climate change, which is something the current administration denies the existence of. Things like security camera footage from the U.S. Capitol on July 6, 2021. The National Institutes of Health are a focus for preservation as well, since they are an organization previously targeted by the first Trump administration. And along with that, resources and data for the LGBTQ+ community. It could well be that if someone needs that data, well, they're going to find it on a completely different website than where it originated. I won't pretend that the appropriation, indeed, the copying and redistribution of this data isn't stealing. Of course it is. It's the same basic act as that time I wrote a Python script to scrape power packs from MARC records. Totally proof of concept, of course, because, hi, have you met me? I hate MARC. As Hunter Thompson once said, I'm a relatively respectable citizen. Multiple felon, perhaps, but certainly not dangerous. Copyright means nothing to the tech and AI companies. And when it comes to anarchivists, we're having a hard time trying to figure out why it should matter to us. Especially in situations where culture, science, art, literature, and data are in danger of vanishing forever. So, ownership is an important part and an important thing in the library world. I'd argue that the most important thing you can own right now, and the thing that you need to work the hardest to protect, isn't your collection. It's not your physical items, it's not your digital content and DLC. It's not your facilities, and it's certainly not your policies. It's your data. Your data is powerful. It's valuable. And it's incredibly valuable to cyber criminals. Please note, I'm not using the word hacker. Hackers aren't cyber criminals, and if you need proof of that, I invite you to talk to one of the folks who participated in the IUG hackathon. I deplore the use of that word to describe someone who commits crimes using computers and networks, so I won't be doing that. No, I'm talking about people looking to make $1, and they're more than happy to leverage your data to do it. Find someone who runs an SSH server and ask them about how often it's being scanned and probed. I mean, it's all automated. You can script intrusion, and it's not even that hard. And for all y'all out there running Polaris, always remember that Windows Server is a well-known and widely understood attack surface. So, besides you, who else is your data valuable to? Darknets? Sure. Ransomware groups? Yes. 3-letter agencies? Oh, absolutely. How many of you have had to comb your data because of a subpoena or a search warrant? Take a moment and reflect on just how much personally identifying information you have. Not only names, addresses, emails, phone numbers, I'm talking circulation history. And I don't know about you, but circulation history seemed to be the most interesting thing. One of the worst things that can happen to your library is that it becomes the main character on social media. In 2023, the British Library suffered an intrusion and ransomware event. Not only that, but 600 gigabytes of data were stolen by a group of criminals called Reseda, who were responsible for successful attacks on SeaTac International Airport, Insomniac Games, the Chilean Army, and the city of Columbus, Ohio. That same year, Toronto Public Library was attacked. In 2024, Calgary Public Library, Seattle Public Library, Delaware Library, Solano County Library, and the Public Library of London, Ontario were attacked by various cyber criminals. These days, ransomware is the big thing, but data theft is a good side hustle. Not only that, but the Library of Congress saw an email breach in 2024, and I think most of us know about the attacks on the Internet Archive. And that all brings me to two questions. What do you own? And do you really need to own it? As MC Frontalot once said, the only way that you can pray to make impression on the era ahead is if, instead of being notable, you make the data describing you undecodable. Because you cannot hide secrets from the future with math. Now, the easiest way to make your data undecodable is to not have it at all. You have a special power in the ownership of your data that you can decide you don't want to own it anymore. There has never been a better time to look at your data, especially your patron and circulation data, and ask yourself, do we really need that? If you take a look at the screen here, you'll see a Polaris SQL query that delivers the entirety of a patron's circulation history from holds to checkouts. All of that information is tucked away in the Polaris transactions database, and it's just sitting there waiting for someone to misuse it. I'm bringing this up because I worked with a library, a very large library that you all know and that I will not name. And they had no idea that this kind of data was being stored. I watched some eyes grow real wide when I ran through this query on a Zoom call and showed them how much data was being retained. I can't speak to Sierra ILS because I just don't know that much about it, but I can tell you that Polaris has the ability to purge patron circulation history from the transactions database. And if you're not using that functionality, then I invite you to investigate that, and I invite you to bring that up in every single meeting you have with administrative people. There are so many strategies to getting the data you want and then getting rid of the source of that data in order to protect and maintain the privacy and security of your patrons. As of Polaris 7.7, this is the standard list of details added to any checkout. I know some folks worry about demographics and where patrons live and versus what they check out, but as you can see, the patron's postal code ID is right down here. You can still get that demographic data while anonymizing the patron themselves. But let's step back just a little bit. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands on this, but I just bet that some of you have seen a certain phenomenon in the upper levels of administration, maybe at the branch management level too. It's a phenomenon I call the library with the largest patron count wins. Purge your patrons, people. Seriously. The patron who hasn't used their card in the last 5 years, they've not set foot in a library in the last 1,826 days, day number 1,827 is probably not the day they're coming back either. Why are you keeping that data? That's data that not only you don't need, but you don't want it. At best, it's out of date. At worst, it isn't. And if your library is unlucky enough to make the news for the wrong reasons, that's data that can be stolen. And believe me, I work with 24 different library systems. I know the challenges inherent in convincing some librarians and administrators to purge patron data, and all of the whereases and wherefores that go with it. What if they owe money? How long should we wait? What if they have associated patrons? Look, I get it, but your patrons need your protection. And one of the ways to protect them is to let that data go. If by some miracle on day 1,828, that patron comes strolling back into the library and their account was purged, do you know what you do? You make them a new library card. Welcome back. Now you have good data and you have a sign of life. That's something you didn't have before. And if you're purging patrons on the regular, no one else can have it either. Now, hard truth time, and the clue is in the documentation. Quote, removing patron ID information from the transaction files, unquote. Transaction, as in Polaris transactions, specifically Polaris transactions.polaris.transaction details. Those who fiddle with the Polaris database will remember that there is a primary Polaris database and a result database too. Circulation information with patron identifying data might be retained in Polaris.Polaris.item record history or in Polaris.Polaris.item record history daily. Did a patron owe a fine on an item? Well, that will be recorded in the patron account table. Did a patron receive, say, a hold notification that their item was ready? Well, you will likely find that mentioned in results.polaris.notification history and in the notification log. Maybe even the email log, depending on how that notification went out. But at the very least, you can't anonymize that data. Purge your inactive patrons. Sanitize your circulation data. For your active patrons, collect only what you need, the base minimum for them to operate within your library policies and to provide the desired data. When I hear about a library who wants to add a driver's license field to their Polaris UDFs, I die a little inside. Okay, so things are hard out there, beloved, and I think they're going to get harder. There's going to be more and more AI slop in the media and the metadata than ever before. And folks, that stuff is like toxic waste. You can't easily get rid of it, and it contaminates everything. You'll need to question everything now. and there may be no easy answers. Libraries are under attack in a way they haven't been since 1933. But if librarians love something above reading and metadata and catalogs and media, it's talking to other librarians. Hell, that's why you're here, isn't it? Keep talking. Keep supporting each other. I've worked in libraries for a long time now, and having things like the IUG Discord and the forums, I'm not throwing out a plug for these services, but I'm damn sure going to praise them. I mean, have a place to go where you can find solutions to the problems that plague your job and hamper your patrons, where you can get the latest info and find out about weird bugs and even weirder features. A place where everybody knows your name. It's like Cheers, but you have to bring your own beer. That's not just a resource, that's a support system. Find your support systems. Keep looking for answers. Help those who need it. Run the data, share your knowledge, share the media, and be kind. Thank you. And that about wraps up this episode of Cyberpunk Librarian. I hope you enjoyed this. You know, something a little different, something a little weird. It's something I've been meaning to do too. I've got, I do these presentations occasionally, and I think some of them might be interesting to the listeners of this show. I hope they are. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And next episode, as a matter of fact, is going to be another one of these. I mean, I've already got it written, and I've been meaning to share this stuff for a little while. So I don't think it's out of date. I think it's still good. Still good. So, yeah, if you like this, tune into the next episode. We're going to have one more of them before we get back into the standard stuff. We might do something a little fun. I think we need some fun around here. Oh, my God, we need something that's a little bit different than the anger and, the yelling and the shouting and all of that. So, yeah, we'll do a couple fun things coming up because I think we need a palate cleanser. If nothing else, we need a little break. The song you're currently digging on is Mutual Observation by Hexhotel. Hexhotel actually reached out to me on Signal. And I was like, hey, I got this song. Maybe you can use it. I don't know. It's kind of cool. And I listened to the song. I was like, oh, yeah, this is going in the show. This is going in the next show because this is pretty freaking awesome. And it turns out that I only need, one good music break for this one. So this is fantastic. I mean, look, if y'all want to send me music for use on the show, reach out to me on Signal. I'll put my contact details in the show notes. And yeah, I mean, just let me know how I can credit you because yeah, all of these shows pretty much, they're all Creative Commons, whatever. I don't really copyright these things per se. They're just kind of out there and available for people to use. But yeah, if you want to send me music, great, because Hexhotel sent this and wow, thank you so much. This is really cool. And before we get out of here, if you do want to reach out and touch me, well, that would be really weird, so let's not do that in real life. But if you want to hit me up on the socials, you will find me as Cyberpunk Librarian at masto.hackers.town. Big fan of hackers.town. Love being part of that group. We're kind of a bunch of weirdos and hackers, and it's my people. Maybe it's your people too, but yeah. You can find me there at that Mastodon instance. That's where I typically hang out the most. I have a Blue Sky. I mean, I'm Cyberpunk Librarian on Blue Sky, and I occasionally remember that Blue Sky exists, and sometimes I use it. It's not bad. It's just that I like Mastodon more. So, yeah, there's that. So you can find me on the two socials there. If you want to reach out via email, you can always find me at cyberpunklibrarian@protonmail.com. But with that, we're going to get out of here. I will see you on the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. And remember, you don't have to live high-tech to be low budget, but if you do, it certainly helps if you're a cyberpunk. Take care out there.